Welcome to Raise Your Vibe and Heal. My name is Lisa Snyder, and I'm an intuitive here to help you live your best life. On this channel and podcast, we hold channeled spiritual messages, mini healing sessions, and welcome monthly guests to share their wisdom. To stay updated on the latest events, please subscribe to my event newsletter on my website, lisahsnyder.com, which is linked in the description field of this broadcast. And when you join the newsletter community, not only will you get a $10 coupon towards any service, but you will get a weekly channeled message delivered to your inbox on Sunday. All right, let's take a nice cleansing breath here before we introduce our guest today. Let's place our feet firmly on the ground, releasing any stress or tension that we may be carrying here. Surrounding this session with all that will be here live today and those who will be watching or listening to the future broadcast with the beautiful gold and white light. Now let's envision our hearts connected with the divine source of love and light, which truly connects us all. And setting the intention here today that we are inviting in and working with only the highest possible vibrational frequencies of divine source of love and light. Thank you. I'm very excited because our guest today is Tammy Franklin. She is a spiritual teacher and healer with a passion to help people understand themselves as spiritual sovereign beings. Tammy's intuitive insights help her clients free themselves from fear-based consciousness by bringing awareness to specific energies influencing their lives. She has been working as a professional psychic medium since 2009. Over time, her readings with clients evolved into insights of energies such as karmic cycles, past lives, and family lineage energies. These low vibe energies were blocking clients and keeping them stuck in cycles of struggle, suffering, and fear-based consciousness. As a result of the healing and working with Tammy, positive changes come into her clients' lives. On a personal note, Tammy has been one of my trusted go-to healers for the past 3.5 years. I can personally attest to feeling the energetic releases in my energy fields and body. I also credit Tammy with educating me on the importance of setting the intention of what I allow to work through me. If you have been with me for any length of time, not only do we bring in the source gold and white light, but the intention is always to work with the highest possible vibrational frequencies of love and light during the healing sessions. You can find Tammy on her website, tammyfranklin.net, Instagram and Facebook at Transcending Belief, and now she is debuting on her YouTube channel with the same name at Transcending Belief. So this broadcast kicks off her presence on YouTube, so please subscribe to her channel and like this video. It is my honor to welcome my energy healer and friend, Tammy Franklin, to the live today. Welcome,
Hi,
Tammy.
Hi. It is my honor to be here, so thank you for having me.
Oh, Tammy, thank you so much. Seriously, the work that we have done together over the last 3.5 years, and first I'd like to thank everybody who's joining us live today. I know we're normally here on a Sunday night, but Sunday's Easter, and so we decided that Saturday would work. And the broadcast, I know many people will want to be listening to this conversation. And if at any point, for those of you that are live, you want to put any sort of a question in the comment box for either Tammy or myself, please feel free to do that, and we will keep an eye on those comments and those questions. So, hello to everybody. And I'd also like to thank Laura, who is our moderator in the background. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Tammy, we worked together for 3.5 years. And the first thing that I'd like to share for everybody who's listening live, hi, Debbie. One of the first things I'd like to share is that we worked recently together. It's about a couple of weeks ago. And I was aware that I had this, the only way I could describe it was an obsessive cord. And for as much as I know about this healing work, as much that I work with my stones, my crystals, the singing bowl, the Palo Santo, all of it, I still felt like I had this cord, and again, it was obsessive that I just couldn't release. And it was surrounding a particular person who has been in my life in the past. And I just knew I needed to work with you. And the interesting thing was, after that session 2 weeks ago, that cord literally went away. And I've had other sessions with you where it was just, I could feel in my body, the energies in my body. I could feel the shift and the clarity that you bring to the sessions, the way that you're able to intuit, or you use all your senses, or I'll have you describe what you sense and feel. But you made a really interesting comment about the obsessive cord. And I don't know if you remember this, so I'll just say it. But you reminded me that when it was an obsessive cord, at least in this situation, that this situation, it was more of something coming towards me than that. And so I was very excited that you agreed to join me on this session today, because I feel like, well, the topic is denial energies. We're talking about toxic positivity, spiritual bypassing, spiritual ego, and it's a very in-depth topic. But when we talk about denial energies, what does that mean to you? What would you like to say about, starting us off on this conversation?
Yes. Well, denial energies are, I would say, generally speaking, it's what's at work within your consciousness that is keeping you see your own truth and blocking your connection to your higher self or to God. And then also, just real quick, I'll interject here. I think that when I say God, I'm referring to source, spirit, unconditional love. I tend to default to God because that's just most commonly used and accepted. But I do interchange when I speak. But so basically, we come into this world of soul school on Earth, and we're coming in full of denial energies because we don't remember our light as a soul. And so we're learning through the dark and through finding our way through basically darkness or not knowing or a lack of knowledge, you could say. I was taught when I first started my spiritual education in energy to think of light as knowledge and dark as lack of knowledge. And that just holds true with everything I have learned since I started this journey. And so that's where I would say denial energies are. It's your shadow. It's what's within your unconscious. It's all your past life experiences that you don't remember. And then it can also be like what you shared, Lisa. It could be not realizing there's a negative energy influencing you, and it's coming really more behind you, or it can come all around. But it can be someone else's energy connected to you being projected onto you. So, yeah.
That is a great explanation of that. Thank you for sharing that. I just learned a little something new too, which I always do when I work with you, Tammy. and you are a wealth of information, because I feel like there's a lot of emphasis placed on just focus on the light. And I know for myself personally, before I became truly educated on what was happening, because I've been channeling these energies for close to 7 years now. I've been working with spirituality pretty much my whole adult life, energy work for, close to 20 years, excuse me. But I've never felt like I was truly educated on really looking at the shadow side or the dark side or low vibe energies. It's always been focused on the positive. I'd like to share 3 experiences that happened prior to working with you. One time I was at the Hoover Dam, and I was up in the Hoover Dam, and we were on this inside tour, and I was the only one who got extremely dizzy. There was something energetically there that was off. The next time that it happened, I was in Portland. It was by the water again. There was one spot in Portland. The closer I got to that spot, I started getting nauseous and very dizzy, and I could feel the energy was very off in that particular spot. Now, this is not, I'm not being disrespectful to these cities. I'm just explaining my experience. Now, the people who I was with did not have that issue at all. And the third time that this happened, my daughter and I went to Little Bighorn, which is where Custer had his final stand, the big skirmish with the Native Americans. And down in this valley, there was where a lot of the fighting had happened. And they had a path to go down there and all these memorials and things to really, indicate what had happened there. The closer we got down into this little valley area, the sicker, the more nauseated and dizzy that I got. Now, my daughter at that time was not affected. Today, she probably would pick up on that more. And when I held her hand, I got balanced. So I feel like balance is really important. And when we focus so much on just one aspect, I feel like, and this is one of the things I want to ask you about. What about this topic of toxic positivity? What are your thoughts on that? Because I see a lot of people focusing on that. What does toxic positivity mean to you?
Well, it means a lot, and it's, very common, but I think the way I would explain it here is that the purpose of of being positive, the purpose of being positive was intended to, your thoughts become things. So in terms of the ego would love to always have you be in fear, be in doubt, self-questioning, worry, those kinds of energies. So that's when we say focus, that would be the appropriate use of what are you putting your energy into? Are you putting your energy into confidence, courage, willingness, trust in God? That would be the proper use of positive intention. When it becomes out of balance, like what you were saying, Lisa, is that we can miss the bigger picture. Maybe there's something we need to readjust, or a lesson that we're learning, something, a fear that we're overcoming within our shadow or our own consciousness. And so that's when people tend to spiritually bypass through toxic positivity, is just overlooking, well, that's not me, right? The ego is very good at getting you, it's not me, it's you, or it's circumstance, or, these things just keep happening to me. And there's a lot of energies that go into that, where you can keep focusing on glossing over and hoping for something different. But if you're operating in Groundhog Day, nothing's changing, then you might want to take a look at, you should start asking questions. What's going on here? What's more at work?
I had never really heard the expression, Monica just posted on here. Laura, if you can put that back up on the screen, please. Shadow work is so important. It's part of the balance, yin and yang. The first time I heard of shadow work, believe it or not, the first time I heard of that expression, and I don't, maybe I was just very ignorant, and maybe I was too focused on, I've always been a very positive person. So when I've been hit with the dark, negative, low vibe energies, it threw me a little bit off balance. And I didn't know about this concept of shadow work until probably 2 or 3 years ago. And what are your thoughts on shadow work? Is the shadow work just the ego side? Is that the negative? What can you please educate for those that are listening for the first time? What does shadow work mean to you?
To me, it means it's your ego, because everybody has ego. We're in a physical body, so we're learning to be in balance with our ego and our higher self. It is also your spiritual wounds, your soul wounds, your emotional wounds, your negative experiences, your past life, imprinting of trauma that your soul has within you, that's experienced from this current life, and also the past lifetimes as well. So it's a lot of things.
So it's fascinating to me that our past life expressions can have such an impact on our current lifetime. And I can think of another time that I worked with you. I'm going to use some of my personal experiences here. I can think of a time when, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, I was in the stream with 3 other people. We were crossing the stream and I slipped and fell, and they were surprised that I fell. And I said, I literally feel like I got pushed. And when I worked with you, it turns out there was a past life expression. There was this. It really kind of surprised me, but because I felt the energy shift, I kept an open mind. It had been. Okay, I'll just say it. It was like an old, we'll call it a wizard energy that was not of the love and the light. We call it the dark, and that there was some sort of an energetic connection that I had brought into this lifetime, which surprised me because I thought, how is it possible that I'm carrying? And I felt it because when we cleared it and shifted it, I could feel the change and the shift in my body. How is it possible that something like that can come with us when we start brand new in this lifetime experience? How are those things still working with us and working through us in this lifetime?
Well, because they're unhealed. So like in your case with a negative wizard energy, that I refer to as I call that darkness, really, because that is a negative intention coming from someone else attempting to manipulate you, attempting to control you, projecting negative energies on you that are not from love. And that is what makes it a negative energy. And we use really strong words in our society, like, darkness or magic or black magic or whatever. But that's, with speaking to a past life with a wizard, those are energies that are coming with constructs of destructive forces and negative energies. So they're not coming, they come with conditions. And so that's how why that was carried forward, because, and this is where it goes back into the not knowing, right?
Yes.
Then, like, you could say that's denial. You don't realize that that's there. If we were raised to be intuitive and use our intuition, your soul, every time you come in with the knowledge that you gained from your prior lifetime. So you come in remembering all the good stuff that's within you. And that's why that's what wisdom truly is. It's like, oh, your soul can unconsciously recognize danger or a negative person, or, oh, this isn't going to work out well. And you don't even question it because it's it's truth. And you operate from that, and you don't even realize that's from experience, from soul experience. So yeah, that's how I would explain that.
When you bring that up, great explanation. When you bring that up, I was just reminded of when I was raised, give people the benefit of the doubt, ignore that feeling in your stomach. And I know when my kids were growing up, I'm like, listen to your gut, trust your instincts, pay attention to how you feel, honor that. And so for some of us that are now navigating this world of spirituality, whether we've shut it down or we've tamped it down and now we're really starting to open it up, we're having these feelings, these emotions. Many of us are having inner child trauma and wounds that we're learning how to work through, and really paying attention and focusing on, you know what, not everybody is coming from the same place. I'm sure all of us have seen examples where people are not operating from our heart center. They're not coming from the highest place of love and light. They're coming from, well, where do you feel that they're coming from? Is it from the ego? Is it coming from material? I mean, where are they operating from when they're not coming from the heart center? Where do you think they're operating from, Tammy?
Well, if you're not coming from your heart center, then you're definitely operating from your, I would say, ego. And you hit the nail on the head, the material world. The material world is a construct to keep us disconnected from our spirit and our higher self. The material world is duality. The material world is, I think, most commonly associated with money, right? Things,
Yes.
Power, all that kind of stuff. So those things are fine when it's in balance and it comes from your heart. And that's where, with manifesting, we, as spiritual beings, we're not taught, we create our reality. And, here we are as teachers, we're helping empower others and teaching them how to be in alignment with their soul and their higher self and God. And so when you are in alignment, you're empowered, and then you experience, abundance, which doesn't mean it has to be just money. Really, abundance is happiness, it's fulfillment, it's success, it's joy, it's gratifying, it feeds your soul, it feeds your spirit. And so that's yeah.
The last couple of years have been interesting for all of us that have gone through the pandemic. There's been a lot of effects, and we're all talking about the ascension, raising the vibrational frequency. And it's interesting because I've seen people in my personal experience that are really struggling with that shift, with really wanting to stay in the way things used to be, coming from, they're struggling with going into that new space, the new spirituality. So I don't think I'm alone. I think we have, in fact, I just talked with a client the other day who said, I've never felt so alone in my entire life. It feels like that everybody has left and changed. And I said, well, you clearly are going through a new shift in your energetics field. And I have seen the same thing. What do you say to people who, in that situation where they're saying, what's going on? It's like the people that used to be in my life all of a sudden are dropping like flies, and and I'm not talking about dying. Maybe they are, I don't know, but I'm just saying they're just all of a sudden, it's like, where the heck did they go? What's going on there? Why are we seeing such a shift with people and their relationships, whether it's a, personal marriage or friendships? What do you think is going on there?
This is a really good question and a hard question to answer.
Yes.
I think what you said, shifting, that's what's going on. We're going through, we could call it a great awakening, a shift in consciousness, a new era, the ascension energies, all the same thing. Where we are closing out the Pisces timeline, moving into the age of Aquarius. So there is a lot shifting, and every day I think it is hard, and we're going through a very hard time. And I definitely want to acknowledge that. Like,
yes.
It's so this is a time when we need to use our spiritual tools. This is a time, I saw, I think Monica made a comment about self-control. Yes, 100%, because that is, I find myself saying a lot, like, more than ever, we see people, well, I would say, let's see, without being political, but mainstream media generalizes temptation every which way we turn. And so, and what I mean by temptation is not rising and acting from a unconditional love. I'm talking about energies that are encouraging people to be angry, encouraging people to be offended, and encouraging people to be in judgment. And these are consciousness manipulations at work. And this is, so for this time, you're choosing your path for the future that we're creating. And many spiritual teachers have different philosophies on this. I can't say with absolute certainty. Let me just rephrase that. What resonates with me in this moment is some spiritual teachers are going to say, oh, we're going to have a bifurcation. We're going to just wake up one day and we're going to be in a better world because you've ascended. I think that's under toxic positivity and spiritual bypassing.
Okay.
We're in this life, and if that happens, fabulous. I'm all in, right? Like, I'm all in.
Right.
But I do feel like we incarnated into this reality, and we're in this timeline, and we're here to help as many people awaken and choose a better way of being as possible. And this is why it's hard. Light work is hard. Light work is can make you question yourself. It can make you wonder, like, how much more do I have left in me to keep going? But we are so needed, and unconditional love and compassion and empathy is so important in this time, and doing what's right. And I mean by that, by acting from your heart, by acting from not from judgment. It there is more than one perspective. There is more than one. Another manipulation is truth, that there's only one truth. That's false. There's the only one truth is absolute, and that of source. But we don't know what that is. We only know what is true in this reality as it's presented to us from source. So I think the truth is more aligned with unconditional love and goodness than right and wrong.
Yeah, sorry. My mic muted. It's interesting because as you were talking, my throat was getting itchy and scratchy. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just did a little throat clearing there for a moment. Okay, so it's interesting too. My daughter, Laura, who's moderating right now, just got back from Vegas, and I mentioned to her that you had this travel mantra that was, I call it a travel mantra. Okay. Those are, I guess
I
you
like
say,
it.
okay, you like that.
Yeah.
And I was telling her about it. She said, would you please send that to me? Because of course, what is the nickname of Vegas? It's Sin City. And you can imagine you've got all kinds of energies floating around out there.
Mm-hmm.
And she had mentioned that she used this travel mantra that you had shared with me, and it made a huge, huge difference. Can you explain? We're going to put this up on the screen, but can you explain a little bit why this is such a helpful thing to do when we travel?
Yeah, this goes under the umbrella of, what we don't know, that we're not taught. And my path, I'm the person, I never wanted anything to do with darkness or scary things. I've watched one scary movie in my life. I was in middle school, and it was Cujo. So now you know my age. And
I watched The Slime. I thought The Slime was bad. That's the only one I've ever watched.
and truly, I have always been, in my past, not always, in my past, been in avoidance of darkness, right? Because that's what society has taught us. And when I started my awakening and started educating myself in the world of spirit, one of the very first things I learned, so I trained in the teachings of the Berkeley Psychic Institute, which is a great foundation to energy and intuition and psychic development. But I remember my teacher, one of the first things she taught us was that there are, we could call them watcher beings. They're not necessarily, they're not of God.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, we can agree that we've all walked into a room and felt something off, or we've gone, like for example, the 3 different places I went to, and I got dizzy and nauseous and sick. And then the minute I walked away from those particular places, I was fine, which is why you brought up this travel mantra, which,
So my point is there are territorial spirits. And so we are not taught that basically, and I do believe this comes from, this is just a Bible reference, because I do think this is spoken to in the Bible. I think there's bits of truth in every religion, but truth is bigger than religion. But I do believe the fallen angels, something like the fallen angels were given dominion over the earth. Okay. So here we come into the earth, but we're not told that.
Right.
And so, so we're not, and this is why I have the statement in the name of God, as a being of God, that I declare my divine rights over the land, air, and water. Because me basically saying that out loud is proclaiming to those negative energies that I understand my divine rights, and I, of my free will, am letting you know that I know my divine rights. So especially when we go to places like you shared with the Hoover Dam, and the other place you mentioned is that you have a past life connection to that. and it's affecting your soul in this lifetime. Or it's these negative spirits, they see your light, and if you're shining too brightly, we need to dim you down. And so why do other people not feel it? Well, they're not a threat. It's really what it comes down to, is, they're just not a threat. And I have learned the more I awaken and the more I become spiritually empowered, the more I've experienced spiritual attack. And that is how I have learned what I know. And here I was, this person, the younger version of me wanted nothing to do with darkness. I was happy preventing,
100% Tammy, I get it.
like, I didn't believe in witchcraft.
Me
I
either.
was told somewhere in my life that if you don't believe in it, then it's not real. Like, don't give power to it, right? That's an inversion of truth. It is very real. And people just don't. Spirit showed me in a way where to have me be a teacher to help others. I never imagined that this would be my path, talking about darkness, clearing dark energies, all these things. I have come to love it. And it's like so weird. I mean, it's such a gift. I mean,
It is.
I do not, I thank God for this all the time. Like, I never, ever would have thought in my wildest dreams that this is what I'd be doing. But I love it. And I rise every day. And yeah, do I sometimes get tired? Yes, I get tired. Sometimes I get worn down. But you know what? I surrender that. And I just ask for more strength and more clarity. Show me what I need to know. Guide me. These kinds of things instead, because when we're in resistance and in frustration, then we become disempowered.
Yes.
So it is a practice. Yeah.
But it is. It 100%.
So
Tammy, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Nope. Go ahead.
This statement is just really a way for you to declare your power. And the more you raise your vibration and the more you do your soul work, the more this statement is powerful and protects you.
So for those who are going to be listening on Spotify or wherever they listen to their podcast, this is going to be loaded to that. Would you please read this statement so they can hear it and then they can write it down?
Yes. Thank you. In the name of God, as a being of God, I declare my divine rights over the land, air, and water. I declare and invoke my sovereign rights as a spiritual being of unconditional love to travel to blank, wherever you're going, free of any and all forms of spiritual attack. And so it is.
Beautiful. I love that. I say that all the time. I love that, but I do. I love this. And Laura said she used it, and she kept saying it every day. And I think part of that is not only you're declaring, but we're standing in your spiritual strength. You're declaring your light. You're coming from that source energy. Do we need to be afraid? Do we need to be afraid of these low vibe energies? And if we do, what do we do? I personally am not afraid of it because I have the tools. But what would you just say to somebody who's like, well, if there's such a thing as, if you have that belief system, and you please, see what feels right for you. But if you have the belief system in low vibe energies being thrown at you, whether you call it witchcraft or magic or whatever, do we need to be afraid of it? What do you say to somebody who would ask you that question?
Fear empowers the negative energies.
Yep.
So this is why we're taught to avoid darkness, this is why we're just come from a place of unknowingness. Fear, if you are in avoidance or in denial of negative energies, that's how you get blindsided. This is how you get traumatized. You can't see it coming if you're in avoidance of it because you have a closed mindset. So so it is so important to be in your heart and not in fear, to walk with, that's why I came up with this mantra as a way to empower you so you can go in, asking for spiritual protection. That's not from a place of fear. I
Mhm.
suggest that as empowerment. So it's like you don't, if you're going to be going somewhere where, we're bringing heaven to earth. This is the purpose of our light work, but we're not walking in heaven yet. This is still a work in progress, right? So this is why you need some form of spiritual armor or spiritual protection, whatever you want to call it. Otherwise, you are setting yourself up to be possibly blindsided by negative energy. But the more we raise our vibration, the stronger your vibration is, and then these energies literally cannot attach to you or attack you.
Well, Lila just said, a teacher has told me that powering up keeps us more powerful than any dark energy, and that we can command any dark energy to leave, and they have to listen.
Yes.
Thoughts on that? Yes.
Yes. So, yes, that is true. I was also taught the same thing. So one of the very first things I also learned in my training and education was when dealing with negative energies, we are, well, everything's created by God, right? But a dark energy is operating from a place of rejection of God, denial of God. Okay. But
Yes.
as a being in light, a being of light that I declare myself to be and embrace, right, and operate from, it is my divine right to command any negative energy to look me in the eye. And when I clear, I always look that entity in the eye. And if they will not look me in the eye, I command them to. I don't have to command very often, but they have to. It's God's law, and they know that. They absolutely know that. So that is very powerful. Where it gets a little gray is that if you have, let's say, if you have an unhealed energy within you, so let's say you have some black magic over you or something, that's where clearing comes in, and it's so important. When you are fully cleared from a specific energy, then yeah, it's not going to happen anymore. But if there's a little bit of healing to do in your shadow around that about whatever the topic is, then the dark may not leave because they don't have to, because they are empowering this. They're connected to this unhealed energy within you.
Yes.
So like we could say unworthiness as an example.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more and more, the more I do this, the more I realize everything comes down to unworthiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's at the core of everything when you're dealing with fear and negativity. So it's so common to be taught as empaths and as light workers, we have more compassion, we have more empathy, we have more, we relate to others through their pain, right? And this can be empowering, but it can also be disempowering because we're taught to give our power away. It's one thing to demonstrate compassion, but it's another thing to act out of obligation or fear. Well, if I don't do this, then I'm going to upset that person. And then I think you brought up an example, like when we're younger, we're taught to, oh, that's not true, or you should do this. I can't remember exactly what you said, but
That was the gist of it. That's the gist of it. Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. So that's what I would say. You absolutely have the power, but the more we raise our vibration and the more we clear, the less and less the dark energy can stay attached to you.
Okay. I'm going to use another personal example here.
Okay.
I'm throwing a lot of personal examples in because I just think it helps. I was like you, Debbie. I literally, like I said, I never even heard of shadow work until, and that's that whole positivity thing and how I was raised. But I was working. This was back when I was still working out of an office. So this is pre-pandemic, and there was a client that I've only had to fire one client in my lifetime. And this client was crossing all kinds of boundaries. So if you are a light worker and you do this work, it is okay to quit working with somebody if they are just you need to listen to your boundaries, set your boundaries. We are not here to save everybody. It's not our job to save people. Our job is to help people save themselves, help facilitate whatever it is our gifts are. Okay, so I had this client, and this client straight up told me that she was able to astrally project different places. And there was definitely becoming an unhealthy attachment to working with me. And I had to tell her that and this was back when I was doing craniosacral therapy. And there was one night when I was in my room, and I want to say it was probably within a short period of time of that happening. I woke up in the middle of the night, was by myself, and I got so creeped out. Like I literally woke up and I was so creeped out. And I knew that something and I'm not saying it was her. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying I was aware of a presence that felt like that energy was in my space. It was in my space. And I had been taught, you probably taught me this, but I had been taught to declare something to the effect of, okay, excuse me, I said, get the F out of here. You are not allowed here. Get out now. And then I quickly asked for me, I love to work with Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, and I called in the angels, the guides, and the light. And I said, please keep my space protected and cleared. And I try to remember to do that on a regular basis, because especially when you're living with other people, you don't know what they're bringing in and out of the house. You don't know, like if you're living by yourself, okay, but even then you're still clearing your space. But that energy, I could feel it. And there was one time too, and I kind of want to ask you about ghosts as well. We were walking in, San Francisco is where Alcatraz is, right? Alcatraz, right. I think is, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was walking, this would have been about 2.5 years ago. I was on a vacation trip out there, and I was walking on the boardwalk, and Alcatraz you could see Alcatraz. And we're walking, there's a whole bunch of people, and I stopped and I kept looking behind me. And my husband, who I was married to at the time, said to me, what's your problem? What's going on? I said, there's something behind me. And I just said, same thing. I just said, you need to go. You're not welcome here. And I could feel that shift change. Now, what is your thought on ghosts? Because some people don't believe in them. Some people think it's what are your thoughts on ghosts and what we should do when we come across something like that?
I love this question. Yes.
Well, I personally experienced it, so it's a thing, guys. I mean, I'm sure everyone here has experienced those. What the?
Yeah. So ghosts are, nothing's black and white in this.
Yeah.
But basically, a ghost can be it's a spirit, a soul that didn't cross over. Usually, unworthiness is a huge one as to why they don't cross over.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's a big reason why they don't cross over. Or it was so traumatic and they don't. It's really just like that movie. I did see The Sixth Sense. That's the second movie I've ever watched.
So did I.
I don't consider that to be horror, but I was a little nervous when I was watching it. But it's so true. They don't know they're dead, and so they're going through, they're just repeating. It's like they're stuck on repeat. And so a ghost, that it feels scary because they're scared. And see, they're basically homeless souls. And so someone like you, Lisa, or me, they're going to come to us because our light is safe. Our energy is safe. And when I feel ghosts come into my field, I cross them over.
That's what I will do now. That is something that and I'm going to talk about that in a second. Thank you. So what does that mean to you? You help them cross over? Because I feel like I'll just let you explain.
Yeah. So I was at this was maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I was at my child's school. Actually, I did a lot of clearing at my child's school because there was a lot of trauma that happened on that land. And actually the building used to be a church, and it was a weird culty church. Anyway, so there was that going
Okay.
on too.
That going
But
on, yeah.
so I had done a lot of clearing on that land and that school. And anyway, I was in the office. I had to speak with the principal about something, and this young boy ghost came into my field and was touching, I could feel him touching
Mhm.
like my shoulder, like my back area. And I knew immediately, because at that point I was way more awake and aware, right? Than kind of, I think, what you shared earlier before you fully knew what that was.
Yes.
It felt
Yes.
scary. To me, it wasn't scary. I was like, so what I told him, I knew he wanted my help. And I just said, hey, I see you. I can't talk to you right now. When I'm done, I will help you. And so he immediately left me alone. And then I went home. And then that night, I connected with his spirit and I crossed him over. But he needed help, and he knew I could help him. So, yeah, so that was interesting. And it came to find out, like, there was a house on that property and it had burnt down.
Okay.
And somehow I found out about that after I had gotten fire. And, he was just stuck, and he saw my light and just needed help crossing over. And so, yeah. Did I answer the question?
You answered it beautifully. And Monica, I do see your question. So before we get to this question, Monica, though, I do want to add on to something here. I want to ask you about something. I've shared this before on a previous broadcast. When I was at the Monroe Institute with my friend Monica, who's on, I had an experience during an out-of-body, the OBE class, where I connected, and I was shocked because I connected with my grandfather's spirit. And I instantly realized, and that wasn't even the purpose of the meditation that we were doing, but I became instantly aware that in his awareness, he was still an old man shuffling in his slippers. And to me, it felt like he was in this place of his own. He created this place. I knew he was safe. I knew I could feel his guides and his angels around, but it was like he had these blinders on. Like he wasn't aware of where he was going and what he was doing. And I intuitively knew exactly what to do to help him ascend higher. And Jesus came forward. Michael and Raphael were there. There was this big, beautiful healing. I wonder if he was a ghost in somebody's awareness. I don't know. Or was he in this place where he wasn't on the earth plane, but he was high enough that he wasn't acting like a ghost in somebody's awareness? I mean, do you have any idea, or do you any thoughts on that? Because it felt to me like he had blinders on. Like he didn't even realize. He thought he was still 82 years old from 1988. I mean, it was, and this just happened last year.
Well, my understanding of that's kind of that's what I meant by, like, they're kind of stuck on repeat, that it's because in that case, I would say, I don't think he knew he was out of his body. And that's why it felt like he was stuck, and that he was just doing like that. He was focused on his life, doing what he knows.
So it was possible that he might have been upsetting some people with his noise and shuffling. I mean, could he have possibly been a ghost expression on the earth plane? Is it possible?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And our souls can fragment, right? So,
okay.
So that's, yeah, our souls definitely through trauma can fragment. So there can be, I'll share a personal experience.
Sure.
So, my little beloved Yorkie passed almost 2 years ago. And I ended up taking her to the vet because she was turning gray, like from couldn't breathe.
Right.
And so I didn't want her to suffer. So I decided that it was time. And of course, being me, like I call in the angels, I write all the things to make sure she has this beautiful crossing over. And she, as a typical Yorkie, like her whole physical experience, like I was her person.
Yeah.
She went into every room I went in, and everybody in the whole family knew that I was her person. So anyway, I created this beautiful space for her to cross over. Well, an aspect of her soul fragmented and attached to our other dog. So I knew
How did you know that? How
well,
could
because
you tell? Other than being the amazing Tammy Franklin, how could you tell?
well, Spirit's always teaching me, right?
Right.
I'm always learning, because I had seen her on the other side. I saw her on the other side. I was so perplexed. But our other dog, so this is what happened. This is kind of gross, but small dogs need their anal glands expressed. And
Okay.
and so my world, Spirit is her name. She's a reincarnated dog from my childhood. That's why her name's Spirit. But so this is her second physical incarnation with me, which is so cool. But anyway, so Spirit all of a sudden started getting her anal glands were blocked, and she was almost 3 and had never had that. And so I knew something was up. And I talked to another spirit, because I was starting to figure it out, but it's sometimes hard to see your own stuff. This is why it's important,
Yes.
right? And so anyway, I was speaking to another intuitive friend, and he's like, she's attached to Spirit's butt, basically. She didn't want to leave. So she did leave, but like she fragmented. That's my point. She fragmented. She was most of her, there was an aspect of her that didn't want to leave. Crossed her over. The dog hasn't had a clogged anal gland since.
Oh my gosh. That is, and then, there is I'm going to just put this on here. This kind of ties into this. So Monica asks, could ghosts be a splintered part of our soul from a specific incarnation here?
Yeah, totally possible. Totally possible.
Okay. And then I know there was another question. If anybody has questions, I just want to address these questions because we just have a couple more minutes. I'm going to show you guys this list. We've only touched a couple of the items on this list. We have gone so off what we thought we were going to talk about, but it's gone beautiful. It's gone in such a beautiful direction. Let's see. I know I saw a question earlier from Monica. She was asking about crystal. Thank you, Laura. Monica asks, what crystals would you recommend to use as a clearing grid for doorways? Great question, Monica.
My go-to is black tourmaline. So
yes.
I think that's pretty common. I think that's a very common practice. So I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a piece of it sitting right here.
Yeah. And then, another thing I'll just add to that, like, kind of like for today, Lisa, and I shared with you before we went on air, like you can set the intention, especially if you're going to be having people over and maybe someone that's kind of a negative and Nelly, or, it has negative energy. Mm-hmm. You can declare that, like put a bubble of light, a golden bubble of light around your home or your doorway, and just declare that all negative energies have to stay outside that bubble so that they don't come in with the person. And that is very helpful. So having the grid helps a lot, and then using your power and claiming your space. That's another way to claim your space.
Oh, and Laura said she wore black tourmaline when she went to Vegas. Her mama went and got her some. Yeah. I was like, I got her some jet and I got her some black tourmaline. And I told you, I said, I got her that. And she's got the travel mantra. And you're like, good. Yeah. Oh yeah. You could put it in your bra. That's a great place to put it too. I forgot that.
Yeah.
I thought all the weirdo hippie chicks back in the day when I was ignorant. You'd hear about them stuffing crystals in their bras, and I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a hippie chick, but I guess there is a part of me that is, and I'm okay with that. And there is something about crystals. And, yeah, some could say it's, your belief in the crystals. Sure, why not? But everything's energy. And we have these different things that have different energetic properties, and they're supporting us, and they're a gift from Mother Earth. So why not? Why not use it? And I heard something the other day, I think it was on Debbie's. Debbie was on earlier. I don't know if she's still here, but Transcend with Debbie. She had a really fascinating conversation with Wayne. I can't remember his last name. And they were talking about crystals, and they were talking about when a crystal breaks. And certain ones, I think it might have been amethyst. No, rose quartz. Maybe it was rose quartz. That when it broke, what you do when you know that your crystal is done is you can bury it in Mother Earth. You return it back to the sea. He also was talking about selenite can get kind of grayish and cloudy when it starts to get, when it starts to get gunked up. I've never seen that, but crystals, there's definitely something to that.
Oh yeah, I brought mine for.
Which one is that?
This is labradorite.
Oh my gosh, I have one sitting on my shelf facing me, and it looks like that. It looks like that.
And then I just put my big selenite.
Oh, we're definitely soul sisters.
Yes, we are.
We're soul sisters. Keith says it was the rose. I don't understand that question. It was the rose, or what he was talking about. It was the rose. I'm not sure what he was referring to. Do you know what that was?
Rose quartz?
The rose quartz. Thank you, Keith. Thank you. He was on because Keith follows Debbie Obb as well. Okay, I'm just going to look through the comments here. And Monica, I love Monica's comment. She had it on here earlier about us doing some future conversations together. I don't know where that is. There it is. It's been such a wise convo. Please have more. You two are great together. Thank you, Monica.
I would love it.
Oh, there will be more. Like I said, I have a whole list of things that we never even got to. And I would like to thank you, Tammy, for being here today. This hour went so fast. We covered topics I didn't even know we were going to talk about, but you know how it works. When Spirit drops those thoughts into your head, it's like, oh, yep, we're talking about this now. And not that we work from a script, but we just have an idea of things we'd like to talk about. Yeah. And so we have some future events that we can do together.
Definitely.
Tammy, how can people find you? What's the best way to find you if they would like to work with you, which I highly, highly, highly recommend. She is amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for having me here. It was an honor and my pleasure. And, we're just connected. We already know that.
Yes.
So to reach me, I'm active on Instagram, and everything I post on Instagram goes onto Facebook. My handle is at Transcending Belief, and my website is tammyfranklin.net. And I request, if you're interested in working with me for a session, to book that through my website. So
yes, she has online scheduling, which I love. I wish more people in this line of work would do that, because the email tag is just, And I feel like most people like to just go online and then you can read and learn more about Tammy. Any final thoughts that you'd like to share with us before we close out today's session?
Oh, I think just recognize fear at work within your consciousness. Be willing to look at it. That's what is going to empower you spiritually and shift your energy and raise your vibration. Be just willing to look at it. It doesn't mean you have to dive head in and, shock yourself with fear, but just take one step towards observing it.
Thank you, Tammy. And I will be thinking of all your wise words and all the information you share when I visit the haunted cemeteries in NOLA here, not too far distant future. So I look forward to that. Tammy, please stay on after the broadcast. Okay. I would like to connect with you. And Monica also acknowledged that she can attest to her work with Tammy. I will attest to Tammy's help and guidance as well. I know Monica messaged me and she's like, my body's just vibrating from the work. It's just amazing. And that's what happens. It's like The feeling you can have when you shift and you release these energies, it's not that you have to be afraid of it, but we do need to be aware of what we are working with, especially as we are working with the light. And like Tammy, as you mentioned, that as we are raising our vibrational frequency, and that's the purpose of this channel, raise your vibe and heal. As we are healing, others are going to feel that light. And we have to remember, people have to do their own work. We can help them, but they truly have to be willing to help themselves. Tammy, it has been such an honor and a pleasure to have you here today. I'd like to thank everybody who joined us live and those who will be listening to the podcast on Spotify and iTunes or Apple, that's old school, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere you listen to the podcast. Please go and subscribe to Tammy's YouTube channel. She just started that today and she streamed this. So please go over and let's give Tammy some subscribers, and also follow her at Transcending Belief. And many of you have seen that I share Tammy's posts because I love the information that she shares as a spiritual teacher, healer, psychic medium. Thank you, Tammy. So appreciate you. So appreciate you. And to everyone else, so much love and so much blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye.